Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm so glad you're here. Please remember to subscribe and to share. I am on the heels of yesterday interviewing Dr. Judith Herman. It's like a dream come true. I actually interviewed the trauma expert of the world, the first person who really began talking about complex trauma as it relates to her work with fathers and daughters of incest. And then this trauma and recovery book that came out later, and her Truth and Repair that came out in 2023. She really talks about how we cannot repair from all of this trauma until we're heard. And she propelled the term and the understanding of complex trauma and also coercive control. She was right there at the forefront, working with Bessel van der Kolk, trying to change the vernacular, the way that we think about trauma, the way we think about children's behaviors. She was right there suggesting with the DSM-5, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual that determines many diagnoses. She was right there at the forefront saying that developmental trauma disorder needed to be in there because she also could see that the family system is causing so much trauma, and it's trauma by an abusive parent. So today, since we were talking about this yesterday, I really hope you listen to that episode and other episodes of Perfect Prey. But I wanted to talk about the adverse childhood experiences. We don't talk often enough about it. Nadine Harris has done a wonderful TEDx on the adverse childhood experiences study, and I suggest that you certainly watch it. What we know is that Vincent Folletti did a weight loss study back in the 90s, the late 90s, and decided that all of a sudden, all these people who were being super successful, many of them with 2 years of college, many of them also having full-time jobs, and these weight loss studies were being paid for by their insurance companies. Kaiser Permanente was paying it, and they were dropping out like flies. And he decided to do developmental histories on them. And what ended up happening was the largest American Medical Association study of all time that people have only really recently begun to understand the impact of it all. He came up with the understanding that many of the people in this study had been suffering sexual abuse as children, and they were now adults, but that it had impacted them so much. And so we know that child sexual abuse is a pervasive problem. It impacts all socioeconomic demographics. It certainly has, there's no particular person who becomes a victim, that perpetrators prey, as my podcast says, perfect prey upon people who are vulnerable. And vulnerabilities can be something good, they can be a strength. They can also be something that puts us, sadly, like poverty, behind the, let's say, the eight ball, right? Where we are more likely to be preyed upon. So, what I would say is that understanding that adverse childhood experiences, there's a quiz, there's 10 of them, that this particular questions that came out as a result of this largest American Medical Association study is that we realize that adverse childhood experiences impact social and emotional development. Think about children who are having behaviors in school, right? So they may have suffered living in a home where they witnessed, I'm going to use the word witness, even though we know it's not truly just witnessing, it's experiencing it. That's how it's written in the study, that they witnessed domestic violence, that they suffered verbal assaults, that they maybe weren't fed well, that maybe they had a parent in prison or a parent with mental health issues. And what I would say is that if we really distill this down, how many parents are living in homes that they've never been to prison? But they are narcissistic abusers, they are coercive controllers, and they are insidiously abusing it. No one in the world would ever suspect it. That's a whole nother level of psychological trauma, and it's all coercive control. It's not even addressed in the DSM-5, in the Diagnostic Statistical Manual. It's not addressed in any of the work of most people who have done research on violence in family systems. And it's certainly not something that was specifically addressed in the ACE study. But here's the deal. The ACE study does show us that the more adverse experiences we have, the higher our score, yes or no, on this scale, a scale of 1 to 10 questions, the higher your score, the greater your likelihood of have social, emotional problems, and certainly other physical disabilities and health problems and earlier death. A person with 7 or more ACEs dies 21 years earlier than their counterparts. So we know the body keeps score. We know this now. Bessel van der Kolk has made this thankfully famous, this understanding. However, What we're not really talking about is that all of these children growing up in family systems where there is coercion and control, where there's one person who is trying to destroy the attachment, the thing that we know most children, a secure attachment to a safe parent, need for healthy development. Not all children, but certainly most do. It's a vital part of our humanity that abusers take this away, and that's not on the scale. So why am I telling you about the scale? Because the scale is extremely helpful in understanding all of the aspects of harms that children experience and that how these harms impact, again, social and emotional development, cognitive processing. We think about, again, your ability to be successful in school, your ability to have healthy peer relationships, your ability to grow up without maladaptive coping. What we know is that when you have higher ACEs, you may often participate in risk taking behaviors. You have a greater chance for being a teen pregnant mom, right? You have a greater chance of using substances. You have a greater chance of participating in risk behaviors, self-harm, suicide, depression, anxiety. All of those things are greater. We need to prevent adverse childhood experiences. It's vital. And we need to think about this when we're having our children and when we're watching our children grow up in these family systems. And many people are going to be saying to me now, well, what do you want me to do? I'm living in that situation now. Or I just tried to get out of it and it's still happening. I want you to know, as a protective, safe parent, you can fortify attachment. You are the greatest influence in your child's life. Your connectedness to them in a safe, healthy way, no matter how frequently you see them, is their saving grace. I promise you. I promise you. All right, sending out light and love to all of you. Please remember to subscribe, and I will talk to you next time.